All right, so you guys are the team who have picked up the reins for Pokemon Uranium, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
And so what is being done by you guys and your team to further assist in the continuation of the game itself?
That is a complex question. So essentially, to answer the question, we'd have to go back in time to what brought us here in the first place. Essentially, what happened was the original development team consisted of two people. That would be JV and Involuntary Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after the full release of the game, they received a cease and desist letter from Nintendo, and all of the services were shut down. The websites, the online servers, social media, you name it, it was all wiped off the map.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what happened is, after a few weeks of nothing, a whole bunch of the people from the community, such as myself and Elle, and I'm sure you saw them in the chat, Amiibo and Sam and what have you.
Yeah.
We all kind of came together and replaced everything. So what originally turned out to be what was supposed to be a temporary replacement for the real thing, we quickly realized that none of this was going to be restored, so we took over the project in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the moment, through... How long have we been doing this, El, now? Almost 9 months?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Started in September, I believe. At the moment, the online servers are functioning. Development is continuing on Pokemon Uranium. We've actually introduced several patches, adding new content to the game and addressing a whole bunch of problems, whether it be glitches, bugs, or exploits.
Yeah.
And we're now working on restoring the website, which has been done. New social media has been created, and we're spreading the word through there. And essentially, what was a temporary arrangement turned into a small team of very talented volunteers continuing to work on Uranium.
All right. Speaking of cease and desist, you talked about a little bit earlier. If you were to get one, how would you proceed if you if Nintendo did send you a cease and desist order?
I really haven't thought about it that much. I mean, the possibility is always there. That's something that you keep in the back of your mind. But at this point in time, we've been doing this for almost a year. We haven't received anything. That's not to say that we won't receive anything in the future. But I think the game plan is to react accordingly. I don't believe there are any plans in place should this occur. So I think the main focus right now is to cross that bridge when we come to it.
All right, and another question I have is, were you personally asked by the developers to continue operation for the game? And if not, how did you obtain the RPG Maker file?
No, we were not. The RPG Maker's encryption is actually pretty weak. There's a program online that you can use to decompile the files. Well, Ruby is interpreted. It's not actually compiled, so you can restore the original source code by doing that. We were never given the files by the developers or officially told to continue the game on their behalf.
Okay. And the original developers, I'm guessing, don't have any say in which direction the game's going at this point?
They have shared with us a couple minor details of the plot, but they haven't really given us any support in developing it, or they are currently behind any more advancement in the story or anything.
Okay. All right. And I have to ask, how big of a Pokemon fan are you? You have to be a pretty big of a fan to pick up a challenge like this and continue to develop it and everything.
I fell in love with the community. I am obviously a Pokemon fan, but the Uranium community, as I understood it, was so large. I became involved with it officially for a brief time when I became a moderator for the official site way back in August. So I had hands-on experience with a whole bunch of people who sent me pictures and then fan fiction and fan art and whatever. And this was a project I wanted to take part in. This was a project that I wanted to invest time into. So I'm not sure if I hopped on because I was a Pokemon fan. This Uranium to me was such a step above what I experienced beforehand. So I can't speak for L. He, I'm sure, has his own reasons, but I came here because I love the people who are involved.
And what is your favorite generation out of all of them besides Uranium?
Gen 2. Absolutely. Cyndaquil is my main man.
All right. And what are your guys' plans for future development? And what do these plans look like compared to the original developers' plan for the game?
We're trying to stay as close as possible to their original intention for the game. We've been asked to add other Pokemon and such, but our plan is to just fill out the remaining Pokemon. There's, was it 7 missing legendaries now?
Yeah,
and fill out the remaining 200 of the decks. So we're planning to add the new town to the game. There's a couple routes we were thinking of, and a bit of post-game content that we were going to add in. We're still kind of debating how we're going to do some of the plot elements of it, but it's in the works.
All right. And Elle, as I understand, you are the main programmer, correct?
Correct.
At what age did you start programming? You had to have started pretty young to be able to start doing stuff like this.
Well, my grandma taught me Visual Basic 6 when I was 9, actually. She had been in programming mainframes and stuff for years. And I learned Lua at some point, and then I was a wiki admin, so I learned JavaScript, and then it just kind of went from there. I know like 8 different programming languages now, I think. I didn't know anything about Ruby till I started working on Uranium, but it's pretty simplistic in my opinion, so I learned it rather quickly.
And another question is, why do you think there have been a lack of interviews regarding the game and its developers? Like it's such like a complicated thing that has been, a big thing that's been revolving around this game, and you think that there'd be like more interviews out there with the original creators and you guys, but I haven't seen to find any.
Well, there's a reason for that. We generally don't do interviews. Cody himself turned down quite a few people when we first started development. We pretty much didn't want to attract attention from Nintendo and get a cease and desist letter of our own. Most people don't even seem to realize that we're still doing this. So.
Well, that's exactly why I want to do this, because I feel like, when I first started playing the game, I was baffled by the fact that nobody had picked this up, and then I come across this, and I'm like, oh wow, you feel like people should know about this, so I really wanted to like catch you guys in an interview. So
there was, when everything went down for the first time, there was this small lull of panic because no one could play Uranium anymore, and what do we do about all these online features, and where are the websites and everything? So when we first started restoring services, I sat down with Kotaku briefly, and then I sat down with Eurogamer, and it wasn't a very in-depth interview. I had the interview with Kotaku was just to briefly explain that without going into too many specifics, the game was still being worked on, and that we were restoring website and online services access. And then Eurogamer contacted me shortly before the VGAs started, because Pokemon Uranium had been nominated for Best Fan Project, but without us even knowing, the VGA's unlisted Uranium from the nomination list. So I got a hold of Eurogamer got a hold of me and asked what was up, and I didn't know until they had asked me. I was like, wait a minute, What do you mean it was taken down? Why am I being approached for comment right now?
AM2R, the Metroid remake, was removed at the same time, so we heavily suspect that Nintendo pulled our nominations.
Yeah, that's probably quite a possibility. And my last question is actually, is there anything that you would like to let the fans know that we haven't already talked about?
Oh, geez. Not without getting all mushy. There's been a lot of appreciation and a lot of education that as I've taken away from this project, and if one person watches this video and realizes that we're still working on this game and that we are still putting dozens, if not hundreds of hours of our time into this project, you have to understand that we're all volunteers. But we're not making money from this project, and we never will make money from this project. And that was a decision that we all agreed upon for a various number of reasons. But I guess the message would be keep playing. We do have plans to add more content in the future. We still host a whole bunch of events here and there, whether it be on the forum or on Discord or over Twitter. And we hope, or at least I hope, to continue working on Uranium well into the future.
All right, well, thank you guys for actually taking the time to sit down and talk to us in an interview.
Can I quickly ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Nigga.
I'm just curious. You said earlier that you had declined a whole bunch of interview requests, correct?
Yes, I did.
What's different now?
At the time, I had been warned against interviews. Right, this was fairly early on in the development. Things were just settling down, and for safety reasons, I was declining interviews until we understood what was going on and how we could work with it. Fast forward to today, almost 9 months later, things have quieted down. It's been very easy to work on this project freely and without concern, because after all of this time, it's become apparent that we are flying under the radar the way we intended, and maybe too well. So I'm hoping that this interview can kind of progress the initiative and keep people playing.
All right. Yeah, well, thank you guys. We got a lot of really good answers, got a lot of really good questions, and I think it was very informative. A lot of people are going to take a lot out of this, I hope. So, yeah, it was great talking to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you for letting us do this.
Yeah, no problem.